The Canadian Bitcoiners podcast is just two guys and maybe a guest or two discussing Bitcoin, Bitcoin equities, and the related macroeconomic space. It's not meant to be financial advice, so please, if you're doing any investing after listening to our program, do your own research, do your own due diligence, and understand that any money you invest can be lost. The show is meant for entertainment purposes only, and we hope you enjoy the program. Friends and enemies, welcome back to the CBP, the mighty CBP, episode 164, $69,000 Bitcoin price. My name's Joey, here as always with my co-host and friend, Len. What's going on, buddy? How'd that go?
Yeah, very good, Joey. And we'll be seeing a lot more of each other in the not too distant future. Joey, it's been fantastic, right? Like you had a nice time in Montreal. You partied it up with some like-minded individuals, I guess. It was a good time all around. And man, the summer of Len has commenced.
Excellent. Yeah, it was a great summer, great conference. Maybe we'll talk about the conference and the housekeeping, but busy day today, a lot of gardening. Beautiful, Len, like summer of Len. You're telling me, what a day today. Outstanding, 30 plus degrees probably. It looks like it's going to be beautiful all week. I bought a bike last week on Tuesday. I was riding it last week. I put about 40 kilometers on maybe last week, going to and from work and some other places, just jutting around all over. I love it. I haven't had a bike that I could rely on for a long time. So I'm hyped on this. I'm going to be riding it to work tomorrow and probably some other places too. I'm looking for recommendations for a quality bike lock. So if anyone knows a good one, it's got a 20
or 30-year-old crappy bike is ideal.
That's not.
It's like a car.
Yeah, it's not in the cards anymore.
You got like my 22-year-old car. I'll leave the keys in it. Nobody's gonna take it. That's the trick, man.
Unfortunately, yeah. But no, I do need.
Is it raining there, by the way?
It will be soon. I think 8 o'clock. We're expecting some rain. So
yeah, because
I know Kenzie was just telling me that she's looking forward to having some water come down on these marigolds we bought at the garden center last week. So anyway. Yeah, who's in the
tomatoes?
P-Man. Look for you at St. Paul. Sessions told me you were there next time. Damn, P-Man. That's too bad, dog. I was there at St. Paul was the first night or second night. I forget. I left pretty early the second night. It was still pretty busy when I took off, but I had a long drive the next day, and so I was like really taking it easy that night. But yeah, we'll talk about the conference in a bit. Let's talk about the sponsors first. EasyDNS had the great pleasure. Always, man. I've seen Mark, hung out with him a bit on Friday at the conference before my panel. And then him and I went for dinner with the Bull guys, the other sponsor, among other people, including Jesse Berger and D and a lot of other great Bitcoiners, Dave Bradley, all those guys, Madex. I mean, you can't beat a guy like Mark. Mark did a panel. One of the reasons we, are happy to be partnered with EasyDNS is because he's been in the Bitcoin business for a long time through his company. They've been accepting Bitcoin for their services for a decade plus at this point. And Mark did a panel on, Bitcoin as an asset for businesses. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm going to watch some of the replays tomorrow, I think, while I'm at work. Of course, they'll be on the background. I won't be having that on my main screen. But anyway, story for another time. So yeah, EasyDNS is everything you need, man. If you want to buy a domain, move a domain, whatever, Mark's the registrar you should be talking to. If you want to do anything with virtual private servers, you want to do Bitcoin relays, Nostr, Bitcoin nodes, Nostr relays, node list, BTC pay server. There's probably other stuff that we don't mention in the big, outside of the big four that we talk about every week, but I guarantee Mark will be able to help you with that. And I am very, very, very hyped to say that he's continuing to partner with us even after he watched me mangle a steak on Friday night. It could not have been pretty watching me down that thing, but I enjoyed our time together as I always do. So head over to the website.
Not eat it the way you should.
I did. Like it felt like near the end of that steak, I was really trying to force it down. It's a big steak. I'll tell you all about this in a sec. But yeah. So yeah, if you guys haven't looked at starting something with EasyDNS, like now's the time. I would say I had a few people tell us that they're using EasyDNS at the conference, which I'd love to hear, obviously. And Mark is always replying to stuff that Len sends him whenever Bitcoiners. Link Ben Justman just the other day said he's having trouble with his registrar. So hopefully he gets some help from Mark and EasyDNS. And Pays in Corn, which you can also do. Go there, CBP Media is the code, or just tell him we sent you, and he'll hook you up 50% off your first round of buys. Who's the other sponsor?
Let's do Bull Bitcoin. That is our other sponsor. And you can buy your Bitcoin, you can sell your Bitcoin on-chain, Lightning, a lot of different options. And looking at the price of Bitcoin, it's showing Moscow time for me. That number is going down and down like my gold against average. So that's, I'm looking at that, man, you're not going to get very much with your buck these days. But you know what? You got to buy Bitcoin whenever you have the scratch. But Bull Bitcoin has you covered whenever it is you decide to do it. And if you do decide to do it and you want to do some other things with it, such as maybe pay a bill, you could use your Bitcoin that you have accumulated over the many years, and you could use that to pay your bills, like a car bill, for instance, or electricity bill or whatever. And other options you have, you could also exchange that Bitcoin that you have been sitting on, and you could use that to buy gift cards. And what could you do with those gift cards? Well, you could spend them in the real world. So indirectly, you are spending your Bitcoin when you go grocery shopping or you go to Home Depot or wherever it is you spend your money on. In this way, you could spend your Bitcoin. Also, Bull Bitcoin released a new wallet. I'm not up to speed with it, but it was just released. The announcement came this past week at the Canadian Bitcoin Conference. I have to sink my teeth into this and figure out what it is it's all about, what it has to offer. But if you have an opportunity to check it out, definitely do so and report back to me. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it and how it works. And if you open up an account with Bull Bitcoin, use our promo code below, and you fund your account, you get $21 added to your account. No questions asked. So how bad could it be? It's very good if you ask me. Check it out.
Love that. Incredible sponsor, obviously. So yeah, look, we had what a whirlwind weekend, man. I got there Thursday night, Thursday afternoon, I should say. Hung out in the room for a bit. Wife and I met up with some friends for a quick bite to eat. And then, things really got started on Friday. Friday morning, met up with Mark at the conference after walking there. It kind of far. It was like 3 or 4 kilometers from my hotel, which was, a little longer than last year. Last year, I was about a kilometer and a half away. Yeah, it was close to an hour. Yeah, it was pretty far. Only because I said this to a couple of people at the conference. The city is too busy to really jaywalk at 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. on a Friday. So if you hit a crosswalk, you're basically stuck at the mercy of the signal. The signals are everywhere and they're long in that city. A lot longer than they are here in Toronto, even, I think, if memory serves. But anyway.
Oh, Joey, we got a story about how signals are in California, but we'll talk about that later.
I already know this story. Yeah, I like that we're talking about that. Yeah. So anyway,
right, it's funny stuff. Yeah, right,
I know.
I can't believe we're already in the Cloud World segment.
Yeah, a lot of UBI recipients over there. So so we're walking for close to 40 minutes, and I realized I'm going to be fucking soaked if I keep this walk up. So I ended up calling an Uber for the last leg of the trip, and got there, met up with a bunch of, I haven't seen these people in a long time. Pastor Coin Allen was there. Tom Karadza flew in just for the day. Julian, Boomer. All the bull guys, BTC Sessions, Ben, BJ Dichter, Len, a lot of people telling us how much they like the show. Coin Laughs, whose first name I won't reveal, but it was doing photography for the conference again. Corey from Hodlers
from last year. Really nice guy.
He's the best. He said he's got to meet up with you to get a phone, I think, in the next couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
He's really nice. I'm gonna go to a concert he's doing here in Hamilton. If he's listening to the show, I'll be happy to share the details, but you got to maybe get them from him first. Anyway, so all those guys, man. Brandon Keys, obviously, Green Candle, D. I met Ben something. I forget his last name. He's a full stack dev on Bitcoin, open source dev. That's his job, full-time job, which is great. Couple of the guys from Me Premier Bitcoin. Finally met Jaime Garcia. Jaime Garcia, by the way, I get a lot of flack for, pulling the guns out from time to time. He's fucking pretty big. He might have bigger arms than I do, honestly. He's definitely taking good care of himself. That's a guy who's got the proof of work.
I'm surprised, given how much soccer he plays, you tend not to be carrying.
He's pretty big. He's pretty big. Yeah, I bet he probably benches more than I do. He's got thick upper body. Yeah,
that's insane. Yeah, because
no Diddy, thick upper body.
He's a midfielder, so you tend to be a little bit more on the lean side of things.
Yeah,
so that's interesting. Good for him.
Yeah, it was great. Who else did I see there? Man, I'm leaving too many people. Obviously, the accelerationists all there. I love seeing those guys. And Len. So my Friday, I did the conference. Did the panel. I think the panel went really well. I got some good feedback on that. Francis and Madex are incredible guys, right? They're obviously very passionate about Bitcoin and the stuff that they're working on. So I recommend you go back and watch that panel. I think it was the second or third panel of the day, which was awesome. After the panel, went for lunch with a few good Bitcoiners, came back, picked up Madex and a few beers, went back to the hotel, recorded an hour and 10-minute pod with him. that I think I'm going to release sometime in the summer, maybe when you and me want to take a week off or something like that, because it's pretty evergreen. He's an incredible guy. You know, for a guy who's doing all the great things he does, I watched that guy sign autographs for people for like the entire morning and afternoon, basically, while he was selling his stuff. Bull Bitcoin was giving away like, you know, seed word cards, and he was signing them. And that you can't, you know, that's the kind of support that that you don't always, you know, you're not always sure why people are getting it. But when you watch him in a crowd, you know why he's getting it. He's, you know, he's a good man, good guy. And when my wife came home or came back to the hotel, she was out with some of her friends. We have some friends in Montreal. Unbelievably humble, introducing himself and talking a bit about what he does and, you know, what his plans are and stuff. Awesome. So after that, we finished up with that podcast, and then I went out for what I thought was going to be one beer with Rich Diaz of the Looney Hour. And he was on the show a couple of weeks ago. We decided to meet up. He took us to this great place, Four Origines, Quatre Origines, probably is the name of the place, down near.
Was it his recommendation?
It was his recommendation.
So it's a Fiat Central location, right?
It's very good. It's very out of the way. Really, really cool spot. I think it was really. I would compare it for people in the Hamilton area. I would compare it to like Grain and Grit or Fairweather, maybe same kind of vibe. A lot of young people, a lot of young professionals, which was good. Went to that place. We had way too many beers, talked about way too many things. He's a great guy. I like that guy a lot. Also another guy who's sneaky cut. He said he's benching 215 now. His PT wants to get him up to 225. Like, he's definitely capable of doing that. Super nice. My wife and I had such a good time with him. We were saying, you know, come to this after party, the plate after party later. He's like, I'm there. I'll be there. So we went for dinner after we saw Rich to Gibby's Steakhouse. And I think that's Old Montreal, but I'm not sure. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong about that. And dude, that steak at that place was unbelievable. Sat with my wife sat next to me, so she came to the steakhouse. She had lots to say about that experience the next day. Sat with Mark, Jesse, the Bull guys. They were all there. Alex, Matt, Kev, Pablo, Francis, everyone. Etienne was there. Whole crew. I'm definitely leaving names out there, so I'm sorry about that. But whole crew was there. Then there was a whole other table of guys from the conference. Larry Lepard, D. I think Luke Broyles was there. God, more guys. But the professor from U of T, Stefano something, who will be on this show at some point in the not too distant future with Carlo Campisi. Awesome time talking about Bitcoin life. A lot of people asking where you were, Len. A lot of people, you know, offering their support to the show and to, you know, Kenzie and the baby and everything. Unbelievable crowd. Then we went to, I can't remember the name of the pub that we went to for Plate Lakers thing. It might actually be Pub St. Paul. I forget, but everyone was there. Ben was there. Like Ben Perrin was there. You name the person from the conference, they were there. Awesome time.
I gotta ask you, did you see the talk on the ETF and gold stuff? Because that's something
with Daniela and Larry and
just in general. There was, I think, two of them, but either way,
I saw Larry, the clip of Larry that's going around where he's absolutely tearing into the debt-based system. I saw that live, and the room was electric for that part of the show. But anyway, so
did that have any place in your eyes in a Bitcoin conference talking about?
Yeah, of course,
ETF?
Of course, yeah.
Is an ETF a shitcoin?
No, I don't think so. You and me disagree on that, but
we do.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think it's got a place there. So the after party, Rich Diaz came to the after party and was bombarded and very gracious about his interactions with the acceleration crowd. So you know how the acceleration crowd is, like sober 9 a.m. on a Monday. You can imagine what the acceleration crowd is like 11:30 p.m. on a Friday after 30 beers. I don't think he's ever been called a macro normie before, but a couple of guys were calling him a macro normie, which made me laugh. Incredible time at that bar. And yeah, the next day I had 2 podcasts scheduled, but we couldn't make it happen because the conference was running a little behind schedule. Not a big deal. D and I did get something recorded, a little bit of a conference recap with some other stuff, lessons learned and whatnot, that I'll probably put out. I don't know. What do you think? This week or next week? I guess we'll talk about it after, but it's only like 30 minutes. So all in all, then, I would say that conference was, you know, if last year's, and this is not a knock on the conference, obviously, if last year's conference was like a 5 or a 6, first year, a lot of hiccups, venue wasn't great, MC probably too hungover on the second day. I would say this year's bumped to a 7 or an 8. The venue was incredible. Rialto Theater, hats off to them. Their AV team, amazing. The stage, amazing. the differences between this year and last year, when you think about like how people like to go to lobby cons instead of the actual conferences, the places where people were socializing were far enough away from the stages to actually like be a separate kind of environment. Yeah, Dan's in the crowd. So, Dan, like it's my fault, okay, not yours. So like the lobby was in a sort of a different place. Then you had the vendors. You had a second stage. There was 2 floors of seating, and there was tables and stuff. So people were kind of sitting together while they were watching the talks, as opposed to just in rows, like auditorium style. It was really nice, man. I think the only complaint I heard from people is that, and this is not the conference's fault, it's their fault because I didn't do this, and I know a lot of other people didn't do this either. You shouldn't have booked a place near the theater. There's nothing there. You got to book a place downtown. Make the trek to the theater in the morning, come back at the end of the day, and then everything else is near you for the rest of the evening, right? And even in the morning, if you don't speak until 12 or 12:30 or whatever, everything's downtown for you to eat at, drink at, all that stuff. So yeah, I would say that conference is, bumped up to a 7 or 8 this year from a 5 or 6 last year. I didn't hear anyone on Twitter or anyone in the audience or any of the people who I spoke to privately say that they had any beef with any of the ways that things were set up this year. Amazing set of volunteers as always. I didn't see a lot of the sort of like in between talks thing, but I heard and I saw online that Joe was doing like games to keep people engaged. I definitely didn't do that last year. So like hats off to him. He did a bang up job. I have nothing negative to say. I think that you go to these conferences, and I was saying to, my wife, I've said this to you too, like, privately and maybe also on the air. I don't love going to stuff all the time because I'd rather like just hang out, relax. I'm busy as all hell as it is. I don't have a lot of free time. And, every time I think about the Bitcoin meetups or conferences, I'm like, fuck, do I really want to go spend 2 days doing this like nonstop? You're never going to get any breaks. I'm always happy I did it at the end, even though I'm a little tired, even though the drive home's a little long, even though, you got to unpack all the audio stuff, pack up all the audio stuff. It's worth it. And it's the organizers, the volunteers, the attendees, the speakers together. That's a tough thing to top. And I think that one of the other things I would look at what the Americans say about it. A lot of Americans saying that Montreal is a great city to visit and Canadian Bitcoiners are rising. And the ecosystem here is slowly being built up and becoming one of the more prevalent sort of, subcultures of Bitcoin in the world. Can't beat that. Can't beat that. So overall, yeah, amazing, man. And Dan, if you're still in the audience, dude, like you and Manuel killed it. You killed it last year. You killed it this year. And you take a well-deserved break, buddy. Get some rest. You probably need it. You probably need it.
And that's the end of our show, ladies and gentlemen. That's a soliloquy. We have just about 5 minutes. So
sure. Oh, yeah. I want to shout out 2 more people. 2 more people I had really good conversations with on Tuesday.
Why not?
Or on the second day, I should say. A few more people actually. Gabe from Bitcoin Advisors. Love seeing him. Scott Wolf from the Canadian Coalition. We've had some disagreements. He knows we've had some disagreements. I still want to have him on the show. I think he's going to come to the house. It sounds like him and Brad do want to talk with us about some of the things I've been saying. I would say the things we've been saying, but some of the things I've been saying. And who I really got to know well at the bar on Saturday night was Cedric Youngelman. What a nice guy he is. Outstanding fellow to talk to. Talk to him about old Knicks teams. Talk to them about some fun conspiracy stuff. Talk to them about whether LeBron could have played tight end, like all these. Great guy. It's so nice. I love all the Bitcoiners, but dude, it is so nice to go to a bar and instead of having to talk about like sound money and the collapse of fiat, just bullshit about whether or not John Starks was overrated, on those 90s Knicks teams. He wasn't, in my opinion. But it was awesome. So shout out to those guys too. I'm sure I told myself I wouldn't do this because I'm sure I'm missing people that I really enjoyed talking to. But you guys know who you are. If you talk to me on the weekend, spent any time with me, then I love you. I loved having the weekend with you guys, and I can't wait to do it again. That's gonna be awesome.
Well, thank you for coming out, ladies and gentlemen. Good show. We'll call it a day. Holy cow!
Let's do some housekeeping here before I forget. Tomorrow, even though we have stuff in the tank, I'm going to save it. 2 stewards, Brent.
We have nothing on Wednesday, though.
Nothing on Wednesday. Tomorrow, Brent and Mark are going to be in studio here. They do the 2 Stewards podcast. 2 guys who are very serious about their faith, very serious about economics. They've had some great guests on. I recommend you listen to their show. I always appreciate, Len, when someone tells me they have a podcast and I take time to listen to it and there's proper production quality. These guys got that. It's fantastic. And I'm looking forward to speaking with them. I think we're going to have a lot in common, even though we'll have some disagreement as well. So looking forward to that one. I don't know.
It seemed like
religion. I'm not super religious. I'm going to ask them a little bit about like, what drives their faith when all these things are clearly like, sort of difficult to get your head around. I used to be one of these guys who watched like Sam Harris videos and was like, oh, clearly it's not what you think it is. And like, I'm not like that now, but I could probably still pull out the dagger here and there. But I really like those guys. I don't want to make it a difficult show, and I'm grateful that we were able to set it up because you and I have been talking to them on and off about their show and our show, and I'm looking forward to being on with them tomorrow. It's going to be a good program. So we'll stream that tomorrow. Nothing on Wednesday. Tomorrow is the second stream.
So let's do a couple of. Well, we got 3 boosts. We'll do that quickly. Mo BTC Dick, 500 sats. He says he works in Vancouver and he'll try to get a video on the ATM for us. This is the ATM that does Lightning.
Thank you,
transactions that may be KYC free. Rander, 555 sats. Congrats on the pregnancy, Joey. My wifey is preggers now as well. You and he are in sync in that regard. And Second Breakfast writes with 700 sats, but nothing said. Just 700 sats.
God bless you.
Just leaves it blank. Like, you could write something next time. Can't you? I don't know. It's your choice. I mean, we're giving you that. Maybe I'll write something. And Joey, let's talk. I mean, I want to just dive into the ETF thing right away. Like,
sure.
I want to hear your explanation why it is not a shitcoin. Why is an ETF is not a shitcoin? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think you and me define shitcoin differently, which is part of the problem we have. But like I said before, I'll sum it up in a couple of words here. There's edge cases that we would never otherwise touch and would never get any touch points with that are exposed to Bitcoin now through the ETFs who may look into buying Bitcoin, self-custodying Bitcoin. No one's saying it's as good as self-custody, but one of the things I've really changed my view on over the last year is, whether or not this idea of maximalism, like, maximalism should not be a wedge issue in Bitcoin. It should just be, we got to get as many touch points with people about Bitcoin as we can. And then after that, it's our responsibility. Much like, if you're running a business and you get someone in the door and you don't sell them anything, whose fault is that? If we get people in the door with the ETF or get edge case exposure to the ETF for these people and we don't convert, that's on us. And I got to be honest with you, if I look at, I've said this many times, the way Bitcoin Twitter handles newcomers and pre-coiners and people who, have Bitcoin and an ordinal or Bitcoin and a rune or Bitcoin and Ethereum or Bitcoin and whatever. It's like, broadly speaking, disregard, derision, and insults. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. What's the old saying, right? You get more flies with, no, you don't get more flies with honey than you do shit. That's for sure. What do you get, more bees with honey? Bees probably
you
like
get more
shit
flies
too.
with honey than you do vinegar or something like that.
I forget now.
Something like that. But
anyway, that's where I come down. Like I said, the disagreement is not so severe that we don't see at least part of that eye to eye. But I think the ETF's a shitcoin? No, I don't think so.
Denominated in?
It's denominated fiat, sure, yeah.
And what is the fiat? Could you tell me that any fiat is not a shitcoin?
I mean, it's all worse than Bitcoin for sure.
No, but you're making different.
No, I mean, look,
is it denominated in fiat? Is any fiat a shitcoin? Or actually, any fiat not a shitcoin?
Yeah, I think fiat's generally a shitcoin. Yeah.
Generally, is there any of them that is not? Would you say any fiat out there? Any of them that has by definition, fiat is backed by nothing.
I mean,
any of them not a shitcoin.
We're splitting hairs here, but like,
this is the argument I have.
We're splitting hairs. Is the work you do absolute dog shit because you get paid in fiat? And so if you take fiat for your dog shit work and you get dog shit money, is your work dog shit? If it is, then why are you still doing it? Everyone feels this way. You pay your mortgage that has value, your house has value, you pay that in fiat. Is your house dog shit? I don't know. As an investment, maybe, but
if I did, I would. But because the only opportunity I have to get paid is in fiat, and then I take that and I convert what I can.
That's an indictment of your work, not of the currency, right? If we're going to go down this road, then everyone who's getting paid in fiat has a dog shit job, and the shit's not worth anything because you don't get paid in anything but shit.
That's the way. That's the way the system is set up in which you get paid. Now, the system in which you invest in or you park your money, totally different argument.
Yeah.
And if you choose to invest in money in a walled system that is controlled by a select few, and also going to be denominated in a currency which is controlled by a select few. It's shitcoin wrapped in shitcoin, dealt with shitcoin, totally not shitcoin. We're Bitcoiners. We verify, we don't trust. We talk, these are not just slogans. These are things we believe in. And if we believe in it, we run our own node, we verify the transactions, and we secure we self-custody our stuff. That's outside the realm of ETF. If
this
you want
is why
to take
I
advantage,
said that the reason it's not a shitcoin is because there's benefits to it, right? I'm not saying it's like a good thing. That's what I mean. Like the definition of like shitcoin is important here. I think we may have different definitions of that, but I would just say that, like, you know, if I, like, you know, some Tom, Dick, or Harry gets exposure to Bitcoin ETF and sees the weighting going up in their, you know, whatever their rebalance is every quarter, every 6 months, and they go, oh man, like this Bitcoin ETF was, you know, a 1.5. Now it's like 3.5 points. That's like you know, it's a 2x in a year. Why did it go up so much in the weighting? Oh, the price is way up. Oh, why is it? And then, like, that's important. And we in Bitcoin, we don't have a vehicle for that. You know,
we don't need a vehicle for this. In the United States, you have the opportunity to hold spot in a Roth account. I forget, it's Roth IRA. Is that what it's called?
Roth IRA, yeah.
So you have an opportunity in the United States, as per law, to hold spot Bitcoin in that. All right, so you have that opportunity. You could take tax advantages by doing it, require a little bit more work, but using Bitcoin is a little bit more work. The easiest way to transact in any currency is US dollars. People are exchanging this for Bitcoin for something that is harder to use. We know it's harder to use. We know there's going to be a runway to eventually to make it easier, but for now it's difficult to use in comparison. But yet we do it because we see the properties that are embedded in Bitcoin. And when you trade those properties for something that is easier to use, or even a carrot to say that you're going to get some advantages, you're just making it worse. You're putting, like I say, fiat wrapped in fiat. Not a good thing in my opinion. And it's all shitcoinery. It's all shitcoin. If you don't have control over it, if somebody else is going to manage it and you can get rugged in the process, there's definitely a possibility of getting rugged. Hey man, you might as well park your money in Ethereum. Just my opinion.
I listen, you know, I love when you're like this.
I will be like this to the end of my days, man. I get fucking worse as I go into this. You know, it's one thing like when you first get in, it's like, okay, you know, leaving Bitcoin on an
block clock's actually behind. We're at like 71,500 right now. Like we're coming up on the all-time high here during the show, which means, by the way, per my earlier tweet, I will not be disrobing during the podcast, which is good for our monetization. So not much else. Sorry, everybody. Anyway, yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna get rugged on my feet. I totally understand.
So do you think that doesn't have a place at the conference? Like, you know what I noticed here too? I didn't say it during the wrap up, but I'll say it now. And you know, Boomer and a few other guys who were there, I was really surprised at the sort of expertise level that seemed to be present in the questions. The other thing we did at the conference this year, Len, was have Q&A, I think after every panel. Like I wasn't expecting Q&A after ours, but we took questions for 5 or 10 minutes. And there seemed to me to be a lot of people there who were still new, still learning, and talked about stuff like, you know, in Jesse's acceleration presentation, which again, like everybody needs to fucking watch that. It was great. Like there's a lot of people who are still learning and trying to get their head around this. And I don't know, like if you had to choose between like people not having any exposure to Bitcoin's ethos or price action, or them having just ETF exposure, like surely you would choose the former, right? Because that's how you get people who are unsure about the latter to come to the latter at some point. That's my view anyway.
I think there has been enough evidence to support why one would buy into Bitcoin. And in terms, maybe one can make an argument, it's difficult to use. And I could understand that, but certainly given how much people have been exposed to technology, it's not much more difficult than people really think it is. Simply just recording words, maybe even putting a passphrase, and you are secure. So also, you know, you could self-custody this thing. And I'm a big proponent of this. I don't want to have anybody else hold on to my wealth. I don't want to expose it for somebody else to do whatever it is that they wish to do it. I'd rather my wealth for myself, and then I could get access to it anytime I want, and I could verify that I have it. And if I spend it, I could verify that I spend it. Or if somebody sends it to me, I could easily verify that I've gotten that money. In any other situation, any other scenario, I don't have that.
But these people won't do that. Like, these people won't do that.
That's their choice, and they will eventually get it. It only gonna, like I said, there's enough evidence to support why you'd want to do that. If you are stuck in this fiat mindset, that is fine, but eventually you'll fucking learn. You'll get fucking rugged one way or another, and then you'll say, "Oh shit, there's something else that's better, that I can control my wealth, that I have my fucking self-sovereignty, and I'm taking back the money from the people that are owning it and dealing with it, and I'm keeping it for myself, and it's also decentralized." Like that is a huge thing. These are the messages we have to be talking about, not trying to show people, oh look, there's a tool that's available for you that you could buy and you could get tax advantages for it, and somebody else is going to manage it. Well, that's great and all, but that is so fiat, and that's not Bitcoin, right? Like if you look at Bitcoin, what it is, the properties of it, you're taking away one of the biggest advantages of it, and you're trading it for what? For ease of use? Tax breaks? Fuck that. I don't want to care for that. I'd rather get a harder tax situation that I'm gonna, if I spend it, I get taxed on my capital gains, but at least I have control over my Bitcoin.
But not everyone wants that. So what should we do? Like, should we just?
They will get there.
I mean, even the most like ardent Bitcoin maxi is like selling the price going up to all-time highs.
The price goes up regardless, because you know why?
Yeah, I'm saying
the denominator is
exactly. I know, and so like this is why I don't get, like, who cares if they want to do the ETF, like let them. I don't give a shit. What I care more about is, and this is a conversation that I want to start putting this out there. This is gonna be unpopular, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I think like Bitcoiner needs to start meaning something more than just someone who holds Bitcoin. Doesn't mean you hold other stuff. What it really means is like you believe in all the stuff we believe in and just haven't figured out the final piece yet. Like you're there. You just have to figure out the asset itself. Guys like, I don't think Schiff is in that camp, because I think he's like intentionally dishonest, honestly, at this point. But there are a lot of people I think who are basically there, who just are like still hesitant about the asset. Why would you want to lose those people just because of like a sort of like Puritan stance on self-custody? It just doesn't make sense. Get them in halfway, or whatever, however much you think that way is, 1/8 of the way, 1/10 of the way, because that if they got everything else enough to buy the ETF, that last jump is not that bad. But it takes a second step sometimes. The ETF can be that second step. We were missing that second step before. We didn't really have a good way to get over that hurdle. And I understand what you're saying. And a lot of people say that like, that you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. Fine. But like, again, I have a problem, especially after talking to people this weekend about, I just got in last year. I just started figuring this out, 6 months ago. I bought the ETF in Canada. I did like you hear these stories. It's not like this is hypothetical. You hear these stories. And so the other thing I can't figure out, from the other side of the coin, we're not going to get to any news at this rate, but the other thing I can't figure out from the other side of the coin is like the better idea that the Bitcoin maxi crowd has can't be just take your lumps and do it the harder way instead of starting with the ETF. That's not a feasible idea. Like not everyone has that capability. Certainly not the people who are a little older who want to get into Bitcoin and start with the ETF. They don't do spot trade. They don't do spot buys. They don't have a Coinbase or ShakePay or Bull Bitcoin. Like these things are intimidating. And, we've done a great job appealing to the kids. I say the kids, like let's say people under 50 who have like a little more technology experience and whatnot. But for the rest of the crowd, how can we really say that the better outcome is no exposure at all when they have the ethos that drove them to the ETF already? That's what I don't get. There is no good answer for that, in my opinion.
The good answer is you're giving up a lot of trust to an entity or entities that have shown themselves not to be good actors.
I mean,
that alone is the final argument. Now, I could go back. Now, granted, like it may be difficult, as you say, because as older you are, maybe more challenging.
Of course.
I was there in the 90s, early 2000s, I was there to see people transition to the internet, to transition to smartphones.
Mm-hmm.
When I first was using the internet, it was command line CLI. And you go on, you type telnet, you type FTP. Like I was there for that into using Unix. And I've seen that transition over a period of time. No way in hell people were going to use the internet the way it was when I first started old people, middle-aged people, fuck, even young people weren't going to use it. But they made it easier to do that within TCP/IP, within the internet.
Yeah.
So the user experience improved tremendously. Took some time, but they were able to capture almost 100% of the audience. Now, just about any person, fuck, my mom uses a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
My father-in-law uses a cell phone.
Yeah.
And if they could use it, maybe not to the fullest capabilities, but they're able to function within the walls of that, I have great faith in the same thing happening with Bitcoin.
Yeah. We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Certainly we're not. But
so what should these people do? Just wait? Or should they start thinking about getting exposure somehow before that?
If you're giving them exposure within fiat, then it's going to be potentially set up for failure. It's here. You're basically saying you got exposure. Now you have somebody else provide the custody for you and the trust. And, maybe there might be a time, like I'm putting tinfoil hat on here, but maybe there might be a time where this thing gets forked off and they choose to fork, which is the wrong one. Or maybe there comes a time where you try to recoup the funds that you have in there. They say, no, you have to keep it within the market. And there's a lot of different options here that you lost once you gave them your money. So let's not have them do that. Let's have them show them a way to do it. Like, I'll give you an example. In a few weeks, I forget which day, Saturday or Sunday, but it's going to be one of the weekends in June. I'm meeting up with a bunch of people I met from the Tom and Nick event, the Rockstar Real Estate event. And these are all people that are in the twilight of their life. And they all are going to use Cold Card. I'm going to show them the process. They're all interested in this. They're going to set it up from beginning to end to buy Bitcoin and to self-custody their Bitcoin. These are people that just at a glance, you would say, there's no way these people are going to do this with Bitcoin. I'm going to show them how to do this. This is all it takes. It just takes education, taking the time to step away from whatever it is you're doing to show them how it is to do it. And once they understand how it's done, it's fucking simple. And then they are now informed. They are now able to do it. And let's rinse and repeat and do this all over again. Let's not deal with the ETFs. Let's deal with this fucking thing. Anything that is denominated with fucking fiat is a shitcoin. Anything that's denominated in ETH, Doge, fucking shitcoin. If it's Bitcoin, we know decentralized, can't be duplicated, can't be created, can't be multiplied. You could self-custody, you could verify. Man, oh man, there's so many good properties that I've just mentioned. Let's not give any of them up. Let's utilize every one of them, all these tools that are available to us. Easy to do, simple to learn. Let's do it.
Are we going to do any news? It's like 20 to 8 here. As much as I enjoy the sparring, I don't know if that's what people come for.
Hey, man.
We'll see you in the play data later.
People want to hear it. That's fine. Well, let's just do a brief, abbreviated version of, I guess, Bitcoin news.
Sure.
And okay, we'll start with what's going on with the U.S. And there's a Bitcoin mining operation that we had some interesting news. There's a Chinese-backed miner called MineOne, and they were planning to set up shop in a place near Warren Air Force Base in Wyoming. Never heard of this before, but it's a military base. Apparently, it has nuclear weapons that are stored on site. So the Biden administration obviously saw this MineOne operation. They're Chinese-owned, or at least Chinese-backed. Didn't like this whole situation and decided to put an immediate end to it. And he decided to stop them in their tracks. And following the decree from the Biden administration, MineOne, they got to remove all the improvements that they done on site, and as well as all the mining equipment that they put over there. So the rationale they're using is national security. There's a threat to it. They're putting a mining site that is backed by Chinese mining that's just, very, very close, miles, if not less, to a nuclear site, nuclear weapons for a that's held by the military. But anyways, I get the move. I understand it, but it also raises some questions for me, at least. I know you don't want to have somebody circumvent the system, right? So the rules are in place that they were a foreign entity. They had to submit a filing to something called the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. Never heard of them, but apparently this is needed. And so they had to comply with the laws. They didn't, and they're getting the wrist slapped as a result. But the problem I'm having here is that if they could consider this to be a national security threat, how much longer can it be before they can consider any new Bitcoin miner
Won't be
that's being set up,
yeah,
or any existing Bitcoin mining operation that could be under the same umbrella as?
They already view this. Remember the decree last year or 2 years ago, and they talked about this. Like, this is obviously a problem for security of the nation. Blah blah blah. We want to shut these things down. We're going to use energy to do it. yeah, I mean, we know.
Yeah. So, that's my problem here, right? Like, it's like banning TikTok, for instance. Like, I get it, I understand it, but it's a slippery slope. Then what happens when you ban the next thing?
Exactly.
And that is going to piss people off. So with this, I understand the rationale, national security threat, all that jazz, but you look at that, what's going on, and what you've mentioned. Remember what happened with Samurai, the recent news?
Oh my God, yeah.
We had the measures for.
It's always something, right? It's always something. Yeah.
Yeah, Wells notices going out left and right. They're preventing banks from, or at least trying to prevent banks from custodying Bitcoin. Tornado Cash saga. The App Store. Remember the App Store against Nostr and the Zaps? Like, I know that's not the U.S. government, but it's just another thing. Like, the list goes on and on. So, like, it's like we're entering in a stage where they will fight back. That's what it seems like to me. That's what they're starting to do. Mm-hmm. So, really, the only suggestion I have for anybody out there is make sure you play by the rules. Don't make yourself a target. If you do, it's going to be a nasty time moving forward. But as long as you play by the rules, it could still be very nasty moving forward. But at least you've tried your level best to ensure that they're not going to look at you and point their radars on you. But man, oh man, this is getting to be troubling to me. And you touched on it. This is just getting worse and worse by the day.
Yeah.
And that's all I got to say.
I said this at the conference too. Someone asked a question about, like, how do you prepare for being on the Bitcoin standard, blah, blah, blah. And it's one thing to, like, talk to your rancher, talk to your farmer, whatever. But what you really have to prepare for is for the bank to think that you're a target. And, people say, well, it's kind of out of the realm of possibility. The Overton window is not extended to that point yet. I don't think that the bank is ever going to just decide that because I have transfers to a Bitcoin exchange that I can't have an account. I disagree with that. I think it's very possible. Like I said on Friday, no one wants you to get rich while undermining the, currency hegemon that's existed for 80 years now, 70 years, something like that. When it comes to mining, how many times have we talked about this? And actually, you talked about it with John from Decentral as well, and you and I and him spoke about it sort of off the air. This is why decentralizing mining is so key. Why everyone needs to have something in their house that's hashing, even if you don't hit the block, even if you don't do whatever. Man, I think that the industrial miners are not long for this world. Certainly not going to be. Their freedom is not long for this world. This as far as like capital markets and the freedom to operate the way they see fit for their shareholders. They'll be, a lot of people talk about, Len, for example, this idea that you could like nationalize gold miners, right? As the currency starts to really waver, it's a lot easier probably to nationalize Bitcoin mining than gold mining, because it's clearly more focused in one or two areas. There's not a bunch of equipment to run. It's something that the government can run at scale without very much difficulty, honestly, because the things sort of run themselves, right? You have all the algos there, you have all the equipment there. It is dicey. This is all very dicey. And we've shared these concerns before, by the way, maybe not on mining, but on things like even having a podcast, like how long are we going to be able to sit here and tell people that the CAD is not the thing they should be in? They should be in Bitcoin. How much longer? I don't know. Let's see. Maybe it's a year, maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's 10 years. I don't know. But I think the idea that this stuff is off the table is wrong. When clearly you see what's going on with, I don't want to say this is free industry. This is kind of an, edge case, but still, like you said, the slope is a slippery one. And once you start heading down, it's very difficult to stop.
Agreed. And let's just keep moving on, because that story on its own is troubling. But so we have another company that has announced they're making an exodus from the United States. So we have IBEX Pay, and they tout themselves as the easiest and fastest payment rail for retail and e-commerce businesses to accept instant Bitcoin payments over the Lightning Network. So based off that, it seems pretty benign, but they're leaving the United States. And I think they were a sponsor at the Canadian Bitcoin conference, were they not? They were. So you must have met and chat with the people from the team over there. I'd love to know if you did and your thoughts. But either way, they made this announcement that after careful consideration, it has been decided that effective the 31st of May, 2024, all IBEX Pay services in the United States will be suspended. Thank you for your support you have given us, and we hope to serve you in the future. So
that's nuts, eh?
I understand why they're making this move, but last story, now this one, isn't this shit concerning? So the US by far is the biggest market in the world, right? And you're removing services like this from the market. And I'm not blaming IBEX. Like they're doing what's best for self-preservation. In terms of what the consumer, like it's going in a wrong direction for the consumer. But I guess people could get around these restrictions using a VPN, but it sucks that this is needed. But look at all the shit that's going on, man. You know, like I don't want to revert back to our early discussion, but here you go. Like, fuck, these guys are leaving the US. Did you talk to them at all at the conference this week?
I did not.
I wish I would have loved to got if they were there and they were able to speak on this. I would love to have got that there.
Yeah, were they a sponsor? I don't remember if they were a sponsor or not.
I thought they were, but again, if I'm wrong, my apologies. But I thought I saw them as a sponsor of the Canadian Bitcoin.
This is chilling effect stuff. I talked about this with Matt Odell last year when we were talking about the Tornado Cash thing, I think, or something else to do with crackdowns coming on different companies that are basically just like payment services or giving out source code in Samurai's case. Maybe we'll see how that goes. But when I look at this stuff, there's no doubt that the chilling effect is working, right? You're getting voluntary censorship, voluntary shutdowns, voluntary jurisdictional changes from these companies who are domiciled in the US or offer services in the US or Canada or some European country you want to name. I think it's, sort of the same across the board. This is why, and again, shout out to Scott Wolf for, trying to convince me otherwise. I look forward to talking to him in sort of a longer format here when there's not a Red Bull and vodka in front of me and, music blasting. But I just think that there's just not really a great chance that any of these governments engage in good faith, even if you're in the room, even if they promise you they will. It's all sort of wolf in sheep's clothing type stuff. The risks for the governments are too high. And so naturally the outcome that they desire is not the same one that you desire. When that's the case, like I said, much to the chagrin of, some of my superiors over the length of my professional career at these different training sessions, there is no such thing as compromise. There's no such thing, not between husband and wife, not between government and business, not between employer and employee. There is no such thing. There's only what the more powerful person in the dichotomy allows the other to get away with, in terms of not harming their secondary or primary goals too much. Everything else is just made up. Like this idea that we're going to move people off the platform. We're going to move people toward, embracing Bitcoin. We're going to move people away from censoring these businesses and forcing them off the property or whatever. I don't think so, honestly. And, it's one of the reasons why, as much as I don't agree with you on the ETF, we both agree that the self-custody option is it's not like a sort of on a tier list. Self-custody is S and ETF is A. It's like self-custody is S. And then, the other 4 tiers have nothing in it. There's nothing that's a close second to self-custody because, if you start playing by these guys' rules, then you're not going to have a good time. And thinking that you can change their mind is, I think, a sort of difficult. It's a difficult sell, honestly, Len. And I know this is not about self-custody, but I think it's in the same vein. There's just no way that these, IBEX is not a small company, by the way, right? IBEX is a fair-sized outfit. And if they're moving stuff, it tells you something. They know something, or they're afraid of something, or they don't think they can fight something. And they're probably thinking, why bother? What's the point? Why do I want to put up a fight? Other companies have done the same thing in the United States, by the way. Some of them will never make it there because of that. Bull Bitcoin's a good example. The regulatory environment's too burdensome. You've heard Francis say on this show and probably others that there's just no point in engaging with governments. They don't care. They don't get it. They don't want to. That's the nature of government. I don't even think it necessarily reflects it doesn't reflect malice that government has toward Bitcoin in a lot of cases. It's not on their list of tasks that are going to help them accomplish X, Y, or Z goal. And so they just don't do it. It could be as simple as that. I doubt it sometimes, but it could be as simple as that. Anyway, I don't want to go too far afield here, but just to wrap it up, chilling effects work, and they work at the individual level. They work at the sovereign level, and they work for corporations as well. You've seen that here, and you're going to see more of this. For sure, you're going to see more of this.
You're familiar with Bitcoin knots, Joey?
Yeah, that's a core spinoff, right? Something like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So that's
Luke.
basically just like Ord Disrespecter with a little bit more mascara on it. Is that basically more or less what it is?
That's what it seems to be turning into.
Okay.
It's just so it is a spin-off. And so it's using, from what I understand, initially the core code. I could be wrong, and then it's just adding whatever it wants just to still be compliant. So if you're running it, it's a node software that's still compliant with the network. So it's not against the rules or against consensus. It just gives you an alternative compared to core. They just released a new version this week. It's 26.1. And it came out on May 13th. So last week, Monday, I believe. Anyways, some cool new features that came along with this release. And one of them is called a reject tokens policy filter.
Mm-hmm.
And what this does, and if you check it off, it only will block runes transactions. So those runes transactions that we discussed, and they were live to the world at the halving just this past month. Well, by enabling this policy filter, you reject your node from putting this in your mempool or broadcasting this out. This is not enabled by default, so you have to turn this on if you want to enable it. But there's a GUI option in order to do this. So it's not like you have to have high level of technical capability to do it. Just simply click a box and you're good to go. And another new filter policy is now included, and this is used to block parasitic transactions. And it is noted that many parasite transactions cannot be detected. And these type of transactions are used to build an ordinal attack. This is enabled by default, but this could also be disabled by the feature, the GUI interface if you want. So if you don't like it, you can disable this. So it looks like from these last two new additions to Knots, they're really sticking it to the shitcoin or the spammer crowd. So it's good to see that they're doing this, because Luke has been very vocal against a lot of this stuff, and he's backing this up by putting these features in Knots. And a lot of people are taking this to heart and installing Knots. So it's good to see that there is a growing number of people that want to run it and put out these filters out there to reject ruins, these parasite transactions, and other bullshit. So good on Luke. I like this stuff.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I just happened to see today, watching a Josh Olszewicz video, that, like, I know that I think the people who like care a lot about the node software, whether it's Ord Disrespector or Knots or whatever, they'll say that, like, yeah, look, we're doing a lot of work here. Look how low the rune fees are compared to the other fees. But really, if you look back at the sort of fees, maybe since block, what block is this? 842,168. You can go even further back, maybe 1,000, almost 2,000 blocks. The fee percentage of runes, hasn't been significant now for weeks. And this is good. It's a good thing if you want to do this, but like every other time that the Bitcoin crowd has gotten spun up and feisty about something, the thing just fucking died on its own. Like, there's no attention span for any of this stuff. Runes, ordinals, whatever. I would love to see the ordinals chart of this. I don't have it up, but the fees are so low now in terms of the ratio, right? Well, like, if I look here, runes fees down to 1%, maybe in the most recent few blocks, something like that. Like, it's over already. So they're dead. So ordinals are probably even worse, honestly. So as much as I like the Knots thing, I don't want to see Luke saying Knots was the thing that drove the decrease in runes volume. The thing that drove the decrease in runes volume is that these guys are all just Adderall riddled degenerates who ran out of money or ran out of time or some combination of the two, or want to go run their pump and dump somewhere else. But all that said, it is neat that Core has these different flavors people can run, and they're allowed to run the node whatever way they want. That's important in Bitcoin. You have to be able to do stuff without permission and do stuff as a solo node runner that doesn't require pooling or anything else, no special tech. Just whatever you want to put on your node, you can do it. This is a good example of that, and we should be happy that it's available for sure.
And that's exactly the way we should be framing it, is there are options available to you as a node runner that you can run various, like a suite of different software in order to achieve whatever goal you're trying to achieve. So certainly this wasn't the reason why, or probably didn't even make a dent into the reason why ruins and ordinals are not really a big thing these days. It's more so that they just ran out of dry powder. Like it's unable, they have to fund it. And when you stop having money that, we don't have any more money to do it, well, the whole thing just kind of collapses on its own.
Exactly.
So the market just played itself out. That's essentially it. But it's the thing here we have to be looking at is there's options, and options are available, and people are building on these options and giving people the ability to enable stuff and even disable it. So it's not like you're constrained to running this and forcefully running whatever options are available. They're giving you many options.
Yeah.
Enable it, disable it, great.
And it's not censor. This is not censoring, by the way. Like I think that framing is wrong too. But yeah, it's good. The options are good.
And if you are a node runner, I mean, this is my personal view. Like, don't hold me to this. Or so it's not CBP view. This is my view. My node has only a limited amount of resources. Yeah. The RAM is limited. The CPU cycling is limited. It's limited in every respect. And I think everybody has that same type of limitation. Some have more than, but we're all limited. And you want to make that node as efficient as possible. And if you could get rid of unwanted transactions in your mempool, you're making it then more efficient for what you want it to do. That's what I'm trying to achieve with mine. I think others may be trying to achieve the same thing. Maybe they're not. I don't know. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but really I'm happy with this, that there are options. But even with that, I'm still running core. I'm going to probably make a change over to knots in the not too distant future, but I have changed my config file. So it's still getting rid of a lot of the crap from my Bitcoin core. So yeah, I still think I want to try knots just to give it a shot to see what it's like.
Nice. No, you should. Why not? And eventually when I start running a node in 2026 or whenever I get around to it.
We got to do it earlier. Joey, come on. Come on. I see that's going to be the for this year. Fuck. Before
I actually ran into all caps twice this weekend, and neither time I didn't talk to him that much, but neither time he didn't bring up the node even once, which is great for me. Maybe he's forgotten. It's good. Positive.
Oh, I haven't. Joey, before the little guy or gal comes into this world, I think we just have that, so you have at least the ability to verify and do your own thing.
I'll put up a geyser fund, and you guys can pay for a Umbrel or something.
I'll give you. I'll give you a shitty laptop. All you have to do is upgrade the RAM and the storage.
Now it's part of the bit. It's part of the bit.
Well, you're getting a computer, right? You're halfway there. Anyways, let's talk about UK Bitcoin users.
Sure.
And there is a new law in the UK. And it's making it easier for law enforcement to seize what they say cryptocurrency suspected of being involved in crimes.
Great.
And this law came into effect April 2024, so just last month. And previously, authorities had to arrest a suspect before they could seize their crypto. Now they could seize the crypto assets first before they even make an arrest. And this helps target criminals who might be hiding their identities or operating overseas. All right. So law enforcement can now not just seize the crypto itself, but they could also get related items that could also provide information to the investigation. This includes stuff like passwords, hardware wallets, and I suspect even mining equipment. And this law, they say, is an update to existing legislation on recovering criminal assets. They say it reflects the growing importance of cryptocurrency in criminal activity. So that's what's going on in the UK. All I gotta say for people over there, make sure you don't go against the law, do everything properly. But man, oh man, this is another thing that they're throwing out there. And I don't know what else to say about this.
There's nothing to say. Get ready for more of this. Don't forget to report your buys on your taxes next year. That's all I'll say to you.
Yeah. All right. We have time for one more. Let's do it.
Yeah, whatever. Sure.
Okay. On the flip side from all this, Oklahoma, right? They passed what. I know it just seems like out of nowhere, but they passed
big.
Yeah, well, to a point, I think. See, they passed what they call this thing, landmark bill protecting Bitcoin rights, and
it's a landmark. Okay, go ahead. You finish, and then I'll tell you what I think. Go ahead.
All right. So, Dennis Porter and folks were behind this. This bill was signed into law just this past week, May 13th, or last week on Monday. And they say the legislation establishes key protections for Bitcoin and digital asset holders. And this comes into effect November 1st of this year, 2024. And they say this ensures fundamental rights for individuals and businesses engaged in digital asset activities. So, okay, what does this bill do? All right. So it guarantees the right of self-custody. We already had the ability to do that. Allows individuals to security hold their digital assets. We already had the ability to do that. It permits using Bitcoin and other digital currencies for transactions without additional taxes. That is interesting. And it says aligning digital assets with traditional legal tenders regarding tax treatment. That is pretty good. Yeah. They say it also allows for the right to mine for Bitcoin at home. Already were able to do that before. So there's a few things that we're all able to do. It reminds me of RFK Jr.'s speech at the Bitcoin conference last year when he outlined a whole bunch of things that he wanted to do. I forget what the number of 5, 10 things, whatever the fuck it was. But either way, a lot of them we already are able to do. Like, it's almost like they're trying to just, appease a whole bunch of Bitcoiners for shit that, well, it's not under attack right now, right? Like, you're able to self-custody, you're able to mine for Bitcoin. You're like, whatever. It is what it is.
I think those things are under attack.
I don't think there's a way to stop it though. Like it may come under attack. Putting a miner in your garage and running it, good fucking luck finding it, because it as I had Zach Bomstad on just last week, you can run it on 120 volts and that's 19 a single hash board. And how could you measure that aside from maybe the noise? But then there's ways to mitigate the noise. Either way, I'm trying to say, like, the only good thing I see from this thing is the taxation of the using of Bitcoin. That's something I think is very interesting. The rest is all fluff, in my opinion.
I don't think it's fluff, but I sympathize with your point there that you can already do all this stuff. It's hard to stop. But, Len, you just have to make an example out of somebody once, and everyone else is going to stop on their own. There's a lot of people, I think, who want to do illegal things and don't do them because the penalty is just so stiff. And even if the likelihood of getting caught is 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 10,000, if the penalty is $100,000 fine, you're not going to do it. You're just not going to do it. If someone in Canada gets nicked for having an S9 running, or in Oklahoma in this case, gets nicked for running and having an S9 running in their garage, and it's $100,000 per unit that's hashing because it's a security issue or whatever, you're done. $100,000 for a security, like a national security crime, by the way, would be very generous in the United States. We've seen much more heavy-handed sentencing than that over the last 5 or 10 years. So I think it's important to have these regulations, but I will just put a cherry on top here. None of it fucking matters, because if push comes to shove, they'll just change the law. They'll interpret it a different way. They'll tell you, sorry, too bad, so sad, which they always do. It happens all the time. Yeah, it happens all the time. 100%. Bitcoin, the trick, to like give a little bit of a nod to Lowry, you have to get the NRA or something to get on Bitcoin mining. Like you need those things to be lobbied like they're weapons of some kind. I'm protecting my wealth, protecting my whatever. This is how I protect my savings. I don't know how you would do that, but that's the way this should start to look, because the NRA doesn't lose. And, whether you love guns, hate guns, whatever, there is no doubt that guns have lethal force and can be dangerous if put in the wrong hands. And yet here we are still today. Everyone in the States, if you want a gun, you get a gun, basically. Again, for better or worse. You need that lobby or that style of lobbying to ensure the safety of these things going forward. Mining especially, because it's not that hard to pin down. Like, everyone has these smart homes now. Don't forget that I think one of the reasons everyone is always like, oh, there's no way we're going to build 5 million homes by 2030. I think you're probably right. But the only thing that gives me pause is, man, you could subsidize a bunch of homes to be built by 2030 and then say you only get the subsidy if you don't have any high voltage connections, you have a in-home electric car charger, and you have a smart home thing that's connected to the grid where we can see the power pull. Like, to me, that's a little bit of an incentive for builders too. Like, we'll give you whatever you want. You get to build these houses, but every house has to be, meeting those 3 criteria. And I think the mining thing, AI, all that stuff, like, the sort of powers that be in the media these days talking about how an AI search takes 10 times more power than a Google search, clicking the button is 10 times more electricity used. I think these things are all possible. And, I dare say it because I know you feel differently, but man, you can't tell me that you are not at least thinking a bit, because judging by how you're talking today, whether it's 6102 in the ETF, or saying that, your rights as a Bitcoin holder are maybe not as well protected as you think. Like, you got to think that CBDC is a little closer than maybe where you were a year ago. And I look at this stuff and I'm like thinking to myself how it's hard to see all this stuff on the horizon here and not think that they're going to start monitoring spending in a way that's really meaningful behind some kind of, I don't know. People say it's going to be a carbon credit system. I really have no idea, but there's an interest in having that control. And A lot of ways to get it. And the ways to get it are, in many different silos. Like I just mentioned, home construction. I don't think a lot of people are thinking about that. They should be, though. They should be, because it doesn't sound like immigration is going to slow down in any country that's struggling with it. But man, there's a lot of ways to get that control over someone's sort of day-to-day power use. And that would be bad for mining. It'd be bad for Bitcoin in general, but especially bad for mining.
Retail CBDC is still a long way away from entering into the equation for United States. Maybe for other countries. I've said this all along that other countries may do it, but the United States would probably be the last one in order to do it, given the way things are. Unless things change where they no longer are the reserve currency, and a lot less people use United States dollars globally. But if things remain the way they are, they're probably going to be the last ones to roll out a CBDC on a retail side of things.
Maybe,
and
yeah.
It will be many years. So yeah, we're definitely closer than we were a year ago, but we're just 1 year closer. That's really it. So yeah, that's it for the Bitcoin side. I think we passed an hour. We'll do an abbreviated notable story.
Oh, thank God. I'm fucking exhausted. I guess we're still going to go past. We're still going to go to 8:45.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
I misinterpreted that good news.
Maybe not. We'll go quick.
We'll see. But in any case, if you're on video, stay right here. If you're on audio, you know what to do. Wait till tomorrow when the rest of this comes out. And until then, take care of yourself.
And don't be a cock. Are you a fan of the old school NHL 94 game on the Genesis or SNES? Why not check out my show, the NHL 94 podcast? From tournaments and tactics to the people who make up this community. Check it out wherever you listen to podcasts or find it on YouTube.